You're listening to Seahawks Stories, taking you behind the scenes with your favorite Seahawks.
Setbacks behind Zorn, who's back to pass. Has time, looks for the left sideline, throws a bomb down there. He's got a man in front. He makes the grab. It's Raible at the 30, down to the 20. They'll never get him. He scores. Touchdown, Seahawks.
Powered by Seahawks.com.
And Zorn laid it in perfectly to Raible, who goes in to score on an 80-yard pass and run play.
Now, here's your host, the voice of the Seahawks, Steve Raible, and Seahawks legend Jim Zorn.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Seahawks Stories along with Jim Zorn, our guest today. Lofa Tatupu, one of the great linebackers in the history of this franchise, who kind of looked at me inquisitively when he was listening to the open. Oh, you really caught a pass when you were with the Seahawks. That was sort of what the question looked like on your face.
No, it was the 40 time.
Oh.
Yeah, I knew you had hands.
Oh, yeah.
You got wheels,
He
too?
caught it at the 30 and went in. It was I think how they put it, a 55-yard screamer.
That's
right.
John Facenda. Remember John Facenda?
Yeah.
Do you remember the name John Facenda? Do you?
Yeah.
Who was the guy who did the NFL films, and he talked like this, and a brisk breeze is blowing over. And when John Facenda said your name in a highlight package, now you got used to it, but when he said my name on that, throws a 50-yard screamer to Steve, that's it. I could retire, be cut, pass away. I've lived my life to the fullest because John Facenda said my name.
Did you? When did you start watching your highlight films? Not so much personally, but did you have team films when you played here? Team highlight films?
I don't think so. Is that like fairly new? Because I don't remember. I still can't find any of
No.
my film.
I would say it's fairly old.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not fairly new.
Yeah, what they used to do would be every team would then get a half-hour highlight film at the end of the season. So whether you were in our case, 2-12 our first year, or 12-2 and the Super Bowl champion, they all kind of look the same. You're highlighting all the best plays. So you'd have thought our first year that we went to the playoffs.
We
or
nearly
something.
went to the playoffs and could have probably won the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
2-12.
Exactly. But, you focus on, and in those days, the PR folks would sit down with the producers of these videos and say, here are the guys, so Z and Yoda, those guys got, the bulk of it because they were the bulk of our offense. And then you mention a few of the rookies who played well because you think they're going to be back, and that would be me and a couple of other guys who were back. And then some of the veterans. We had guys like Mike Curtis on our defense in those days.
I love watching him play.
Oh, my God.
What was he like?
Oh, he was a different cat, as they say. He was as hard a hitter as you could ever find. He just laid a fan out. Oh, remember a fan ran onto the field in Baltimore. And he said, "You're at my place of work now." And he belted the guy and dropped him like a sack of hammers. And they had to literally help this guy off the field. And then they just went on with the game. But
he was not one of the guys that would just sort of walk with everybody else, and I'm going to do everything else. He would call the NFLPA office to see if it was legal. If we had to practice in 105-degree weather, hey, should we walk out or is this going to be okay?
He was kind of like
especially
a lawyer.
we have no
almost.
water. We had no water either.
Man.
Very smart guy.
Yeah, he was a pretty
Duke.
smart guy.
There's a different level of toughness you guys had.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was a different level of knowledge is what it was. I mean, we did stuff that everybody else did in those days. I mean, Jack came from the Bud Grant tree, and that's the way Bud did it. Yeah. And so quite frankly, and I think Jim would agree, once you did it a few times, you got used to it. That's just kind of the way it was.
Yeah.
You drank a lot of water before practice, and then you hydrated afterwards, in my case with beer. But then you, thank you very much. Yes. I love it. And Jimmy, I think now has actually found that a little taste of the vine once in a while is fine.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a public knowledge. A spot that people use, but I've drank Guinness beer, and oh my gosh, it's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how the hell we got on that subject.
Lofa.
Mike Curtis. So
Yes.
he was with
yes.
the Colts before, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We got him in the expansion draft.
Exactly.
That's how he got to Seattle through the expansion in 1976.
Right. So we had most of our expansion guys. In fact, we had some on the offensive line. Nick Bebout, Artie Kuhn, Norm Evans. On defense, what was Bradley's name? Our middle linebacker.
Ed.
Ed Bradley came from the Steelers.
Yeah.
Middle linebacker. Mike was outside. Ken Geddes was the other
how
outside.
about Dave Brown?
Dave Brown.
He was a
turned out-
first round draft choice.
Yeah.
And
Steelers,
he was
right?
in the
Right,
expansion
Steelers.
draft.
Wasn't protected.
Yeah.
And that's how, you get the guys in the expansion is you can only protect so many guys, and then you have a pool of guys. That's how we got Sam McCullum. That's how we got,
How
he
about
came from
Autry?
Minnesota. Autry Beeman came the next year.
Okay.
Beeman came in 77. Steve Priest was in the expansion draft as a safety with us. Al Matthews was so we played a lot of those veterans that first year. But I'll never forget it. We're coming back from our last game of the season. It was somewhere back east. It was maybe New York or Philadelphia, the very first season. And we're flying back, and the coaches used to sit in the back of the plane, and the older players sat up front. So I was the rookie, so we sat behind the bulkhead, and Jack was bringing players back. He had a seat next to him open, and the entire flight he'd bring a player back and sit him down and talk to him. And so I don't know if he did he do that to you? He did it to me, and he brought me back there and he said, "Hey, first of all, he said, here's what you need to improve on. When are you coming back? You don't wait until May or June to come back to get ready." But he said the thing that hit me the most was he said, "Take a look up there. See all the old guys that are up there? They're not going to be here. This is going to be your guys' team."
Yeah.
And that's what we're preparing for now. And he was right. The vast majority of the expansion draft guys were gone after that first year.
Yeah.
And that's how then you start building that first franchise on those young players.
Well, that's all the time we have, Lofa.
Thank you, everybody.
So
Good
much
night.
for,
Lofa, you've been
coming and
terrific.
visiting. What was your first year here?
2005.
2005.
Rookie starting middle linebacker for a Super Bowl team. What was that like?
It was incredible, and honestly, I'm not gonna say I expected it, but I know it's just college. I just came off of 2 straight national titles, so I hadn't lost the game until we lost to Jacksonville opening day down there in like a year and a half, 2 years. And I had a good cry after that game, and I don't know if people remember it. Mo Kelly actually consoled me. Great dude. But I just remember from that game, it was very hot.
Yep.
But we had something like 4 or 5 turnovers, and we still only lost 26-14. You're supposed to get blown out when you give the ball up that much. And we didn't get anything on defense. Like, we didn't stop Fred Taylor. We didn't stop Jimmy Smith. Like, it was ugly. But, after I wiped my tears away, I just went around and told everybody, hey, man, like, we got something special here. Like, if we just keep going and believe in it, because you got that many things that go against you in terms of, like, that game. You shouldn't even been in the game.
Remind folks who some of those defensive players were with you in that year. This was Mike Holmgren's job. Were you?
I was here.
Yeah, you were here as
I was on the
quarterback
staff.
coach,
Grant Wistrom, Bryce Fisher, Chuck Darby, Rocky Bernard, Marcus Tubbs, Craig Terrell.
Yeah.
And then safeties, we had Bulware and
Michael
Kenny
Bulware.
Hamlin, and then Marquand Manuel, corner Dyson Herndon, and Trufant.
Yeah.
And like,
That's a good crew.
yeah, and then the linebackers,
Did that stay the same?
You and
Leroy
Hill. Yeah.
Did that stay the same throughout the year with you guys? I mean, you
No.
can name all those guys, but how did it change? How did it?
Well, Kenny got into an incident, and Marquand ended up filling his spot. And, it's like Kenny's, we're talking about a Pro Bowl player, right?
Yeah.
And so those are big shoes to fill. And I remember Marquand just coming in and just kind of sitting back and, not really taking authority. He became one of our leaders. But at the time, he was just kind of like, hey, I'm just going to do my job. And then we just got together watching film, and he really helped with the communication aspect, which is huge. Like, there's no secrets on defense.
Yeah.
Like, you see something, say something.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest part is, we found our groove. And because I think we're probably like a 14 or 16 ranked defense. It wasn't like awesome, but we were top in rush defense, top in sacks, and takeaways. We lived off the big play to give that high-powered offense more
I
opportunity.
was just going to say, you had a pretty good offense across the way from you over there, starting with that big offensive front. I mean, they were as good as any group together in my recollection.
Oh, gosh.
Certainly with this franchise, but the left side of the line is Hall of Fame. I mean, let's face it, both
really
of them.
was. I remember Robbie Tobeck, and he would say, after I learned all, what the rules were, he goes, I never studied. Like, I wanted to backhand slap him. What do you mean you never studied? He said in Tom Levaut's program of identifying what's in front of you, all you had to do is know where the middle linebacker was, and all the rules took place. He said, so anytime, he goes, where's the middle linebacker? He's right there. I know what to do. And so he said he never studied.
But knowing what to do and physically being able to do it is something else. There's a lot of guys who played against this guy right here, said, we need to get to him. He's not a very big inside linebacker. We need to get to him. But was he able to shed him? Were they able to block him? Did he get around the block? Did he run right through them to make the tackle? So the physical part of it, I mean, that to me is also something that's so big.
I think with Lofa, the thing that's special, one of the things that's special about him was you can learn your assignment, and you can even learn a little technique. But if you don't have the instinct of not wasting motion, I mean, that's the whole thing. Is like, I'm going to take this step there, and if you take that step before the guy can get up on you, you've already beat him. And the instincts that he had of movement, and I don't know if was that video or it's just video, knowing who to look at, what to look at.
The physical aspect of it came very natural to me when I was young. Like, you could turn on my Pop Warner tape and you could just see one little dude running around just cranking heads, right? Just like, hey, like he's about that life.
Did that come down genetically? I mean, almost it came from family, dad.
Yeah,
all those guys.
I feel like my dad would have been a really good linebacker, but they were using fullbacks, and he thought he was a tailback, and as soon as he got to college, they moved him to fullback. So it's like, because they had a lot of good tailbacks. Sure. But so that part, that came very easy to me. Everything else, I had to learn. And, I try to tell all these kids that I'm blessed to talk to, I wasn't born an all-pro linebacker. In fact, I had no offers to play linebacker leaving high school. I had one, and I took that opportunity, right? Everybody else wanted me to play quarterback. I was a quarterback by default. One of my buddies, he quit to play hoops. He had hoop dreams. Yeah. And so my dad, I asked him, why'd you move me to, quarterback? He's like, well, because you're the only one that can remember the plays. I was like, that works. But, even then, there's things in today's game that I'm sure you guys see as offensive players, like, guys are leaving college as quarterbacks, and they've never called a huddle. They've never called a play. They've never got under center. They've never used their voice. They've just, I can't imagine that transition, because everywhere I went, speaking to the instinct part, I got to watch and learn from the guy in front of me, because I wasn't always the starter, and then just keep graduating that level of education and love for the game. You love the game, you're going to put in the time.
Yeah. Talk about the other part of what you brought to this defense. Where did the leadership instincts come from? Did they grow as well by watching other guys, or was that something that was innate in you?
I felt like it was in me somewhat, but I had a lot of great examples of leadership, from high school to college, everywhere I went, Maine to USC, and that's even coaches too, and how they handle themselves and carry themselves. So you're just a student of everything. You're very observant. You're going to pick up the good habits and see who the good leaders are and gravitate towards them, right? And so, because you can lead for bad, you can lead for good. And so I just always remember, hey, if I ever get the honor of being a captain, then I'm going to take the best of everybody but be myself. And so I think I was able to become a captain. End of rookie year, we voted again, and I got to be captain 6 years. Six years in the NFL. Captain.
That's what Mike wanted. He wanted the players themselves to vote and to elect guys like this to lead teams.
And this question just popped into my pea brain, and I'm looking at you as a former head coach. How important was it for you to have guys like a Lofa Tatupu as a captain, somebody who you could depend on when talking to the team, when trying to get points across, that sort of thing?
It's invaluable, especially in the locker room, because they can control what message we're trying to convey, what direction we're trying to go, and captains take responsibility, because it's not that they love the head coach and, gosh, I'm just going to do everything he wants me to do, but they've been elected by their teammates, and they kind of had the vision and the goals committed to the season, and they're the ones outside of coaching that take control of the team. Mm-hmm. So it's invaluable. Mm-hmm. So, and I will tell you later what some of the struggles are as a head coach, wanting to have your captains convey that message and take charge when nobody else is around. Mm. Yeah, that's hard.
I'm sure it is. What was that chemistry like on your team? That not only the Super Bowl team, and then after that, the team started to kind of, players went different directions and all that. You could almost feel that was maybe not a one-time deal, but certainly that opportunity sort of went away after a couple of years.
Oh yeah, windows are very real in the NFL in terms of like what you can do and when, and so. We still felt like ours was open, but you lose key players, Hall of Famer, like we mentioned, Hutch, and just it was a great mixture of young guys, with the rookie class we got that year, and the veterans, and everybody they love football and they love their brothers, right? They're this really a family environment, and we went to battle for each other, right? Yeah. And it was like. When all the teams, you'll have that common factor that you see playing in the postseason. They're a tight team. That's a very close group.
Lofa, when you think of all the the plays, the games that you've been in, I think it's really hard to describe one play, right? One favorite play. Can you describe either like this moment that you had playing here for the Seahawks that you remember or you talk about all the time because you can really see it was an outstanding performance or play?
It's funny you say that. We talked about highlights. I only remember the bad plays. Like
that, I think most of us who
right?
played do the same.
We can
thing.
all relate to that.
As a competitor, right?
Right.
Like,
right.
What do I got to work on?
The difference is Jim remembers my bad plays too. Why didn't you catch that ball?
I still think what's foggy is being on this hit. When he ran an out, I completed it. And then he ran into the yard marker and punctured his lung.
Not on
And I was thinking, if somebody said, "Oh, Rabe's punctured his lung," and I thought somebody hayaked him, just went,
with the other end of it,
and punctured him with the standard. And no, you just laid into it. You bent it.
Flew out of bounds, and the guy instead of dropping it like they're supposed to,
drop it.
The guy put his leg behind it and stood there. So I wrapped around it like a tree.
He reinforced it.
I ended up going back on the field and playing for about 3 plays.
Yes.
And I couldn't breathe. I was too dumb to know what I had done.
It happens.
So I come off the field. This was in preseason, and I come off the field against the Raiders, I think. We come off the field, and Jimmy Weitzel, our trainer, and I go over to him. I'm breathing like I can't hardly breathe, and he says, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Jim, I can't catch my breath, and everything hurts." And he looked at me and said, "Well, you're just out of shape."
That's what he said.
And I said, "No, Jim, I don't think so." And then pretty soon I started to get a little blood in my mouth, and I hadn't broken a rib, but it popped the concussion popped a hole in my lung.
Yeah, man. And so I'm thinking, the game's going on. I mean, you don't stop the game because he hit the yard marker. So the game's going on, but I heard, oh my gosh, Steve punctured his lung, and I swear I was trying to visualize how this guy had this poker up there, and you ran into it, and it just went right through your ribs into your lung.
You remember? Yeah. You've seen the pictures of the knights.
Jim's like, "Get up, Raves! We got a game to play."
With the jousting thing.
Exactly.
That's the picture that Jim had.
Oh my gosh!
No, and they put me they finally took me to the ambulance and said, "We got to get you to the hospital because your lung is collapsing on you." And so I get in, and just as the ambulance is ready to pull out, I hear somebody yell, "Wait a minute!" And the doors open again, and Joe Norman limps on. He had just blown his knee out. And so the two of us, he had knee surgery. I had chest tubes put in that night to reinflate my lung.
Man.
And it just kind of part of the game. Did you ever have those kinds of injuries? Well, I know you had an injury ultimately that said I can't play anymore, but did you have one of those types?
Not anything that comes to mind. A lot of surgeries, a lot of concussions, but like to speak to the highlights, like everyone brings up the Philly game, which I did have that torn oblique.
Yeah.
And it's different for everybody. I remember Matt played, I think, that same game with it because I tried to throw a ball and I just couldn't breathe. I was like, and I just looked at Matt. I was like, "How are you going to play this week? Because I can run." He's like, "Well, it doesn't hurt when I turn, but like when I run or get hit, like that's when I feel.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's crazy. Everybody's pain and just mechanically made up differently, but everybody brings that game up in terms of highlights because the 3 interceptions.
Right.
And
3 interceptions in one game.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. Wasn't it a snowy night too? A cold night?
It was. I think that was just a cold night. The 05 was the Monday Night Massacre. I think is what they labeled it, and that that was a good one too. But both those games, I saw Wyman after, and he was like talking about the game, and it was a good game, but I missed a tackle, which was a sack.
And he reminded you of that?
Because he was asking me, he's like 13 tackles, 3 interceptions, 100 yards returned. So I had a 100-yard receiving game.
Way to go, bud.
Right?
You had more than I did.
I thought we were like right there with the 100-yard games.
Yeah, actually we are.
And so all I could remember was I should have had another pick, and then I should have had a sack. And so
That's amazing.
I was still I've never been happy with any game.
Yeah.
I was happy we won.
Right.
As long as we win.
Right.
Because I've had games where I had 2 tackles and hey, communication was solid. We got out of there with a W. That's all I care about.
Yeah. So you moved from playing, and you actually were an assistant coach here.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was that experience, and why are you not a coach today? Because it's been year. What year were you?
15 and 16. So it's been about 8 years. Yeah.
So 8 years. So you started. You said, I want to do this. I want to get out there and start coaching, and you stopped.
Yeah, I was newly retired, right, and just stay-at-home dad, right, which is awesome. But and I was just going to high school games. I was living back in Massachusetts at the time when they called me, but they're like, "Hey, we have an opportunity," and I was like, "Well, I love football, and I wanted that ring, and I knew we still had that window still open, right." And so I talked to John, talked to Pete, and I was like, "Well, is there anything on maybe the scouting side?" I really love the player evaluation and finding value because talent jumps off the film, right?
Right.
But who are the guys that get overlooked, right? And then you look up later and they got a Pro Bowl or 2, and you're like, "Who saw that?" I've seen it a couple times, and but I honored the contract, did coaching, and I got to coach Bobby and KJ, right? So it was. I don't know how good of a coach I really was. Bobby already had 2 Pro Bowls. KJ made his Pro Bowl.
What was the thing that said it's not for me?
So I have 2 boys. They were 3 and 6, and we had them around the football schedule, right? Because my first one was born during my last year, and then the other one just happened to be in July. And so February I missed the birthday because of combine, and then July I missed it because of camp. And so I missed 3rd and 6th and 4th and 7th birthdays. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to make this kind of sacrifice.
Yeah.
But
it's long hours.
It is, but it goes by fast. It's fun.
It is fun.
You're back part of the team and something bigger than yourself, and just I fell in love with it. It was just commitment was a little too great in terms of sacrifice for because the kids they're 10 and 13. It could be getting closer to return to football because they don't want to hang out with dad anymore. They know everything, right?
Yeah, do they?
Right.
So, but you stayed here. You didn't go back to Massachusetts.
No. Yeah. I love it out here. I was back there. Me and my wife are both from back there, Rachel, and so we were back there for 2 or 3 years, and then came back here and got some businesses here, and just I love Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. And Washington in general.
And you're an institution back here, and you're a podcast star. You've got 15 podcasts or something. You do some incredible stuff.
I like to do things that are fun.
Yeah.
Right. Your passion.
Have you been on his podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't invite you?
No, I haven't been on it.
I don't have Jim's number
for that.
I don't have Jim's number. Maybe you could give me Jim's number.
No, I won't. I'm not going to get. I don't want. Are you kidding?
I'm going to have to
I
call
still want to be
Hasselbeck.
one of the few guys from the old
That's good.
team that's on.
Well, yeah, and he's kind of all over the place because not only player, but the way he is the Seahawks.
The voice of the Seahawks.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's fun. I can't
Right.
I can't lie to
You
you.
love it though, right?
I do. I'll tell you something else. When you were talking, and I started thinking about that 2005 season, and of course, Jim worked for Mike, and we're all really good friends, and we love seeing each other again. But I remember that game that won the NFC Championship at home, Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Sharon was in the booth, my bride, 43 years we've been married. She was in the booth. So now, anytime we play in an NFC Championship, if it's here, the rule is she's got to be here because we've won every time she's been in the booth. So that's one of the rules. But I just remember, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, I had to say it to myself a few times that we're going. I'm sitting upstairs in the booth. These are the guys that actually did it. You guys actually did it, but it was just such a moment for the franchise. And I know for Jim and from me as well, coming here in '76 when there was, it was kind of bleak those first few years, but the fans, they weren't even known as the 12s then, but the fans hung in there with us, and pretty soon you started building that team around some players and some coaches, and here we go. We're going to the Super Bowl. Now, what happened on that Sunday in Detroit is a whole nother story,
right?
As we so well know. But and then you mentioned Marquand. Marquand Manuel doesn't get hurt. I think we're in a pretty good shape to win that game.
Marquand got hurt. Rock got hurt.
Yeah.
So hey, you gotta give credit to them. They won, right? And I understand, what happened in that game. But if it happened the other way for us, I'm not giving that ring back. No. So everyone's like, "Are you mad at the Steelers?" Nah, man, I just don't like refs. But you remember how much fun that season was?
Yeah.
Like we got on that roll of 10 or 11 games straight.
Do you remember what was on the back of the team meeting room? Remember we had Ed Viesters.
Ed Viesters. Keep going,
either
or
Todd or Mike had the whole wall covered in Mount Rainier, in a photo of Mount Rainier.
Yeah.
And every week we won, we were climbing the mountains, and every week we won,
didn't they?
we had carabiners.
Yeah.
And I still have those things hanging in my garage, because, and I always think about how tough it was to win, and you guys had to go out there and do it. You're the ones that went out and performed, but we had to also give you ammunition as coaches, and hoping that they would play consistently. And so we had the consistency week in and week out, and I would say the easiest coaching job is when a team makes the playoffs because the players take over. You hardly have to say anything, and everybody's so willing. You're not pulling anymore. You're actually viewing guys, and they're going, "Give me the info." Okay, got it. You don't have to say anything more. I got it. And all of a sudden, these guys come together. It's a really tight knit.
The chemistry,
chemistry.
Me, Didi, and Leroy, because it started off me, Didi, and Jamie Sharper. So we went through adversity. We lost Jamie. We lost Ken Hamlin. We lost guys in and out of the roster, Dyson, D-Jack. But the next man stepped up and did their job. And it was just no one cared about any credit. But the chemistry between Leroy, I remember him. We were in St. Louis, and Z was getting on us because we were not messing up fits, but I was like, dude, the only rule I have playing with me, I did have a rule, you beat me to the ball, I'll play off of you, but I'm going to beat you to the ball, so you're going to have to play off me. But one time, man, I just saw a blur. It was Leroy's first start, and I was like, what was that? That was Leroy Hell. And so I was like, oh, he spilled it instead of boxing it, so he forced it to go outside instead of knocking it back to me. So I was like, I'm just going to go over the top, make the tackle on Steven Jackson. And Leroy was like, man, thank you for saving me. I was like, nah, dude, those are the rules. We have fits, but if an offense knows where you're going to be every time, then it's to their advantage. Right? And so, I was like, you got to be a little unpredictable.
Especially with alignment.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we can predict your alignment.
Oh, yeah. It becomes a long day.
Yeah.
Or if they can sit on the double team and then climb up,
Did you have any communication between D-line and you as linebackers to know whether it was going to be a pass or a run based on how an offensive lineman was sitting and stuff like that?
Rabbit or run. Rabbit meant run, and bird meant pass. So you would just get either a hand signal or someone would just turn and yell, "Hey, rabbit, rabbit, rabbit." I'd look at the formation. It's near eye. I was like, "Yo, they're 85% power out of this formation." So
think about it. That's that. Yep. If you knew 50% of the plays, and the 50% is it's a run or it's a pass, I mean, you got an advantage. And so the communication, that's not. It may be a coaching tip, but you actually have to do it in a game.
Yeah.
And It makes a huge difference.
It's more difficult in today's game, I would assume, because of things like motion and different formation groups and all those kinds of things, or am I wrong?
I think RPO makes it because it really literally is a run pass option, right? So but that's you see like guys getting penalized for illegal linemen downfield because they don't have the timing down yet, like between the quarterback and the throw, and like okay, he's open, I can throw it now, anticipate it, right? They're kind of waiting until they're
RPO is easier in college football because of the lineman can be down the field 3 yards, and in the NFL, yard and a half.
So you can't be outside the box.
No. And so you have to make that decision.
And especially if they climb to that second level, like they zone block, which I still think the zone block is the toughest scheme, but you can beat it strategically with your D lineman. Like I would just say, hey, you have to win front side, and I'm going to come downhill on that first double team, and I'm going to pick that guard off. Like he will not stay on the double team after that play. Trust me, because you lay one of them on their backs, they're going back to the huddle like, hey, you're not getting any help to the center. They're like, next time we call 19 or whatever, I'm going to 51. And so now all of a sudden when he climbs, I just tell them win front side. I'm going to loop back around the other side. We're both going to be free.
Because what happens is you start that double team on that guy, and both guys want to get the linebacker. So the guard thinks, hey, I've got to come off. Or the backside guard, I got to come off and get the linebacker, and the center is going, I got to come off and get him coming over the top, and they go boop, and then that D lineman is unblocked,
it's
and
like
then
a
you're
good
just pulling your hair
pick and
out.
roll in basketball. Is really like what it is.
My broadcast partner Dave Wyman talks about it a fair amount, and that is as another middle linebacker. So you guys obviously know each other so well, but he always used to say, I would get the most comfort by looking directly in front of me and see Cortez's Kennedy's big butt right in front of me. He said, because I knew that Cortez was going to like envelop two or three offensive linemen, and he wasn't going to move. And if they missed him, he was in the backfield. He said that was the most comfort he ever got. And to play with other great Hall of Famer, Cortez Kennedy, to play with great players like that really must be something terrific for guys like you.
Yeah, and I mean on that team, like Marcus Tubbs, 330, and could move.
And Craig Terrell could get skinny.
Craig Terrell never got reached. Quote me, you can go back and watch all the clips. I don't think he ever got reached, and that was just the rule. I was like, hey, I give you freedom, like to make a play. Right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to even be in the same position where the offense knows, okay, he's always in the nose and they're doing this. Like, so you can stunt and get around and I'll play off of you. But, if you get double reached, we got problems, like real problems.
What's really cool is to hear Lofa talk about, hey, these are our rules. Like they had rules, and the rules in his mind made a difference. But I would also say he also learned how to have good fundamentals, playing in a good position with good technique, so he could follow his rules.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those are the things that the coaches can help. It's like, and you can see it on video, and you can train it because everything's filmed now, and you can tell. It really disturbs me when I see quarterbacks in the gun just standing straight up, and the first thing they do is sink down when they get the ball, and everybody else is taking a step. They haven't taken anything. And so, those are the things that I want to train guys, and little things.
Well, because that's a trigger to me for my blitz. That's
right.
a cue. I'm like, okay, he stands up, doesn't even on a dummy count, he doesn't get down like it's coming, like the ball's coming. So if he does this, and then all of a sudden the next one, I'm taking off on that. Like that's
and I learned that with Largent. And probably you.
No, I'm sure not me.
Come on.
Take some credit.
Because Steve would always be down in a position where he could just take off. He wouldn't be down in a position where he'd sink and then take off.
Yeah. Efficiency that you talked about.
Yeah, it is efficiency. And if you get a half a step, you got it made. And then hey, we got our rules. I love that.
And I was going to mention when you talk our rules, when you're talking about the defense out there, did they ever kind of go either counter to, or you're not making it up on the fly, but you're realizing in the situation, what we talked about, and so you said it to the coach, hey, that ain't working. We got our rules.
I don't know if Mike knew about the rules, so let's not show him this tape. NASA, let's cut me out of this one. But it was literally unspoken set of rules of like how we take advantage. Because again, if we're just sitting, all we did was play quarters, and we were so aggressive with our safeties. They were so good that it was like 9 in the box.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a whole lot of 11 looks until it was obvious passing downs, right?
Yeah.
So then we would bring pressure or change it up. But like we would play the 7-man front, but it was more like 9. That's why we were so good against the run. And like people were looking at us like, how do they play quarters and stop the run so well?
And those quarters players, those inside safeties, they had gap control.
Yes.
They had a gap assignment
At the edge, yeah.
and
So you have to read that quickly. I'm asking the question. You have to read that quickly, and if it is pass, you still have to get back to your quarter?
No, but
No,
see, we
no,
ran them underneath. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, he was about to say it. Yeah. We ran the corners over the top, you know? And so now
so be careful. So that's what. So now you've got cover 2 invert.
Yes.
Right. You got cover 2 invert. The safety's going outside to contain, pushing everything back into him so he can have glory and make tackles. But the corner actually is the
Now
deep
hitting
safety.
to the hash mark.
Yeah.
He's the cover 2 safety.
Yeah.
He's
And
over the top,
he would never go too far inside if number 1 went vertical. You know, he would be inside, but he's not going to show you. So you think it's a safety zone.
Right.
So you have to really see how the safeties connect with these. And cover 4 or quarters.
Right.
That's different than a cover 2 invert. And because the safeties now they can jump, and it's tough to throw a slant.
Oh, yeah.
And we used to always say, if you're seeing quarters, be careful because because the will linebacker or the inside linebacker, he's gonna wall this guy, the number 2 receiver. But man, that safety is going to come hard because when he sees him walling and you set up on a 3-step drop, all he has to do is go get that slant, and he's going to blow the guy up. And then the corner can, I always say the corners they can always PI slants because, gosh, it's bang bang.
Yeah, inside 5.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You got to give us something, man. Like, everything's going towards offense.
Okay, we've talked really intricate football. Actually, more than I was going to say more than maybe a lot of people out there know. Hell, it was more than I knew when you start talking about inverts and things like that. I'm still with Sky and Cora. That's how far back I go. Cora and corner pressure, safety pressure. That it was kind of simple in those days. What is Lofa Tatupu now with 2 sons, 13 and 10? You said
13 and 10.
What do you guys and Rachel? What do you guys do for fun? What's your idea of a great day if it doesn't involve football?
Yeah, it's mostly centered around what the kids want to do, right?
Yeah.
And so coaching the flag football team. Right now I have to go back and look at a Green Bay Packers team that they really got after my defense. And because you know why? The kids weren't listening. It wasn't my fault.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's get honest. So now I'm just going to play all man because, I got these guys. Well, he entered my zone and then he took off. I was like, hey, it's zone to man. And I've taught you that. So I go, now we're just going to play straight up man. So we're going to find out who the real players are.
What does your 13-year-old and 10-year-old play when they like football, obviously?
Yeah, my youngest, he's starting to get into sports. We had him in basketball, and it was just comedy hour. Like, oh my God. Like, it should be a Netflix special, like off the videos I have. A lot of traveling, a lot of personal fouls. But the older he was late into sports. I worked with him a lot when he was younger. Like, I was like, oh, you're gonna play baseball, football, and he loves music, and the youngest loves art. And so we got him into like my youngest plays on the computer and like drawing and the tablet with the computer generated art and stuff like that. And so we got him into a coding class, and I've never seen him happier. Right?
Yeah.
Because he was miserable when I took him to the ball field.
You see him concentrate on those things.
He wanted to go back. It was a 2-hour lesson. I was like, it might be a little long for like what he's displayed for attention span. And he loved it and went back the next day and the next day. So.
And what type of music? Is it producing or is it instrument related?
Everything. He started with the drums. Thanks, Mom. That was a Christmas present like that Grandma gave him, and just wailing away on the drums. And then went to guitar. He's doing vocals now at School of Rock in Issaquah, so he's done that.
Okay.
You know, and like they have concerts, and it's probably the most fun kid event I've ever been to. Like the parents are partying at the bar, and the kids are rocking out. It's a lively atmosphere.
That's good. So he's learning a lot. He's a lot of different instruments.
He's into everything, and I'm just trying to teach him to follow through with one thing, right? Like, hey, dude, just come on, finish what you started. And like my youngest, he's only trying a couple things, but he masters everything. So I got we got our work cut out with each of them, but just I think they've learned a lot from each other because they're kind of close in age.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Biggest lesson that football, sports, but because we're all football players here, the biggest lesson that you've learned that you've applied to your life well past your playing time.
It's a great question. I mean, so many, but no one does anything great by themselves. Like it takes a team, and you know, just being able to trust and show care and love for your team, like that was for me. As a leader, that's what I've learned from some of the great leaders I had, that they cared about what we were doing. They loved what we were doing, the sport, right? They loved ball. And then they loved their brothers, right? They loved the team. And they would go out of their way if they saw someone struggling. Hey, you know, what can I help you with? How do you know? And so, but just that, being part of a team and something bigger than
Do you stay in contact with teammates and hang with these guys and have relationships deepen, or
yes,
you know,
and you know, because it's crazy. I talked to some of my friends that have Super Bowl rings, and I'm like, hey, do you keep in touch with? I mean, that must have been a tight group. He was like, we were, but just now it's not kind of. But you notice a lot of us stayed up here, right?
Yeah.
Trufant's from here, Babs. You know, there's so many guys.
You have to work at it too. You have to work at those friendships because it's not forced anymore, right?
Yes.
It's not practice and what are you doing all day at practice? Well, I'm hanging out with you. It's not like that. And plus, you're married. There's different relationships. There's skill involved with developing a friendship with your old teammates, right?
Takes time and effort, right?
Yeah.
But anything you love, you're going to put in the time and the effort.
Yeah.
Right?
It's interesting because, you know, again, next year will be 50 years for us. That's the birth of the franchise 50 years ago next season. And just in the last year and a half, and I think part of it started around COVID time, but one of our former teammates from back in those early days started doing a Zoom call. And we get a bunch of guys. We have one tonight. Did you know that? There's
I
one
do know
tonight.
that.
Yeah.
I tried to get Papa Fig to.
He's going to be. He's going to supposed to be there.
Is he?
Yes.
Because I
don't know that he can use his computer.
Yesterday.
I think that's his biggest problem is he can't make it work on the computer. But then that's the case for a lot of us.
I tried to be on, but I couldn't click
that's
the
right.
right buttons.
Couldn't hit the right button. I don't know what's wrong with this thing. Can I do it? You know, can I call you on a telegraph? No, Fig, that's not going to work either. But it has been so much fun for us. And you know, I still see all these guys. I mean, I still see Jim wearing the number 10 jersey and, you know, got the page boy haircut, and he looked like he, you know, just fell out of Elle magazine or something. And yet we're now in our 70s. And it's so amazing to just sit and listen, and everybody talks, and we all still laugh.
Yeah,
we laugh with each other as friends, and we you know, we commiserate and we mourn when we lose one of our own, and we've lost a number of them over the years.
Yeah.
But that may be the best part. It's what you're talking about. It might be the best part of what we did back in the day was now we can still enjoy all those guys.
Oh, the memories just come flooding back. Like,
right.
I was down. This is the 20th year for my national championship win, me and my team, and I went down to the NIL dinner. And, you know, I saw one of my buddies. He's like, man, it's been a while. I was like, 20 years. I haven't seen you since Miami when we played Oklahoma. He was like,
amazing?
Has it really? I was like, and like, I can't remember what I had yesterday for dinner, but like, I'll remember details of meetings and where we were and what happened. And like,
Lofa, you know, we had our alumni game, and I always see Lofa at the alumni game as you do as well. But what's interesting, I know you because we, you know, I'm a fan, and I was a coach when you were on the team, and so it's easy. But there's a lot of guys that are in different generations of retirement that have been Seahawk players that I don't even recognize. How about you? Do you know every single guy that or are there some guys that you don't recognize?
I try to, but everybody I play with, like, yeah, for
sure.
My memory hasn't gotten that bad yet.
But it's hard to know who played and who had.
Well, guys look different. Like,
yeah,
Tobeck and Hutch are 220
you wouldn't recognize
pounds
Tobeck.
now, right?
Yeah,
and still hilarious though. Like, that was a fun group to hang out with.
Yeah, it was.
Well, offensive linemen usually are.
Man.
We had our Nick Bebouts and our R.D. Kuhns. We had the fun guys too.
Yeah.
Listen, well, we know you've got something you've got to do. Yeah. We all have other things to do, but I just want to say thanks. You invited me. You were gracious enough to have me on your podcast, and it was great fun talking to you guys. And we always enjoy it. And one day when you're like you don't have anything else to do, you can invite Jim. And
Who's your partner in crime on your podcast? Is it just you?
No, my boy Brett Davern. He grew up in Edmonds, up here in Washington, and so long time Hawk fan, and so he comes to all the home games. But then he'll come around, and like we were in the suite one time, and he walked up, and he was going to ask a gentleman a question, and then he goes, "Oh my God, it's Mario Bailey," because he's a big Washington Husky fan, and he forgot how to talk. and I was like, Brett, Brett, it's Mario. And he's like, Mario Bailey, and I was like, yes, it's Mario Bailey. He's a cool dude. Ask him a question. What were you going to ask him?
Well, it's always great catching up with you, and we love seeing you when you're around on Sundays. Always make it a point, stop by. Either down on the field or upstairs. And Z, you and I get to see each other almost every Sunday as well. Yep. So we appreciate it. Best to Rachel, base to the kids. And thank you, as always, Lofa. And to all of you out there, thanks so much for joining us as a part of our Seahawks stories this week. We'll have another episode coming up for you probably in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, go Hawks, and thanks for being with us.
All right, Lofa. See you later.
Appreciate you guys. Love you guys.
You too, though.
And all you listening, love you too. And Nas.